Matt had always been the kind of person who believed in helping others. It was a principle he carried with him as a soldier in the human fleet. The vastness of space had made him feel small, but it also gave him a sense of purpose. He had seen many strange things, met countless alien species, and faced danger head-on. But nothing had prepared him for what happened on his latest mission. He was assigned to a routine patrol in a remote area of the galaxy. The mission was simple, just keep watch over a barren, uninhabited moon that had recently been reported as a potential threat. There was nothing interesting about it, nothing out of the ordinary. But as he flew over the cold surface of the moon, something caught his eye. A signal, weak and broken, but it was definitely a distress signal. Matt '(s) curiosity got the better of him. He turned his ship toward the signal, landing near its source. What he found was a sight he had never expected. A woman, an alien, lying unconscious and bleeding in the dust. Her skin was a soft, pale blue, and her features were sharp yet graceful. She was barely alive. He rushed out of his ship, kneeling beside her. Her breathing was shallow, and her eyes fluttered open briefly, her gaze meeting his. There was a quiet desperation in her eyes, but before she could speak, she collapsed back into unconsciousness. Matt knew that he couldn't leave her like this. Despite the danger of unknown territory and the risk of being caught in a political conflict, he made the decision to help her. He carefully carried her back to his ship, his mind racing. Who was she? What had happened to her, and why was she out here alone? Inside the ship, he managed to stabilize her, but her injuries were severe. He didn't have the medical equipment he needed, but he did what he could. As he worked, the woman stirred again, her voice barely a whisper. "Save my baby," she said, her words strained and filled with pain. Her accent was foreign, but the meaning was clear. Matt froze. Save her baby. Who was she? What kind of trouble had she gotten into? His training told him to keep a safe distance from unknown individuals, especially aliens, but something about this woman made him hesitate. He couldn't just ignore her plea. "Your baby?" Matt asked swiftly, trying to keep her calm. "What happened? Who did this to you?" Her eyes flickered open once more, but the pain was overwhelming. "They want to kill me, kill my child. I can't let them." Matt's heart skipped a beat. This was more serious than he had imagined. He didn't know what kind of enemies this woman had, but he could tell by the fear in her voice that they were dangerous. He had to act fast. "I'll help you," he promised, his voice steady. "But you need to tell me everything." "I can't do this alone." The woman nodded weakly. She took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice trembling. "I am Zara, from the royal family of the Viridians. My people, they believe my child is a threat. They think I will bring about their downfall." She coughed, her voice growing fainter. "They will kill my baby to stop it." Matt listened, trying to make sense of her words. The Viridians were known as a powerful and ancient race, and a royal member of their family was something entirely unexpected. But the more Zara spoke, the clearer it became that this wasn't just a personal crisis, it was a political one. Her people, the Viridians, had powerful enemies, and her pregnancy seemed to be at the center of it all. "You're telling me that your own people are after you?" Matt asked, his voice full of disbelief. He couldn't imagine the kind of world where a mother's child would be considered a threat. But in this galaxy, anything was possible. "Yes," Zara whispered. "They fear what my child represents. I was supposed to lead them, but they've turned against me. Please, human, help me save my baby." Matt felt a weight settle on his chest. He didn't know if he was ready to take on a mission like this, but one thing was clear: he couldn't turn his back on someone in need, especially not when a child's life was at risk. "I'll help you," Matt said again, more firmly. "This time, we'll figure this out. We'll get you to safety." Zara's eyes softened, her lips curling into a faint smile. "Thank you," she murmured. "I know you're not from my world, but you're my only hope." Matt nodded, determination growing within him. He didn't know how he was going to protect her or her baby, but he was going to try. He had no idea what he was stepping into. But one thing was certain: This mission had just become much more personal. As he began to prepare the ship for takeoff, Zara's words echoed in his mind. Save my baby, human. And I'll give you my body, my title, even my heart. The promise was heavy, but Matt didn't fully understand the depth of it yet. For now, his focus was on getting them out of danger. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and he was about to discover just how dangerous it could be. Matt sat in the cockpit of his ship, his hands gripping the controls as he carefully guided it through the vast emptiness of space. The cold, quiet environment around him seemed far away from the heat of the situation inside the ship. Zara, the alien woman he had rescued, lay unconscious in the back, her breathing steady but shallow. He had done what he could to stop the bleeding, but she was still in a fragile state. He couldn't help but feel a deep sense of responsibility for her. She had trusted him with her life, and now he had to do everything he could to protect her. The ship's engine hummed softly as Matt focused on the task at hand. He couldn't believe what he had gotten himself into. Moments ago, he had been on a routine patrol, just another day in space. Now, he was on the run with a woman from a royal family of a powerful alien race, and she had entrusted him with her child's life. He didn't know what kind of enemies she had or why her people saw her child as a threat, but he knew one thing: he had to keep her safe. For her sake, and for the baby s. As the hours passed, Zara slowly regained consciousness. Her eyes fluttered open as she looked around, confused for a moment before her gaze landed on Matt. There was a sense of relief in her eyes when she saw him, and a quiet gratitude. "You're still here," she whispered, her voice weak but steady. "I promised I'd help you," Matt replied, glancing over at her. "How are you feeling?" "Better," Zara said softly. "Thanks to you. I didn't expect to wake up." "You're welcome," he said, offering a small smile. But his smile faded quickly, replaced by concern. "We're not out of danger yet. I don't know who's after you, but I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe." Zara nodded, but her face grew serious. She looked away from him, staring at the walls of the ship as if lost in thought. After a moment of silence, she spoke again. "My people are not kind to those who oppose them," she said. "They will stop at nothing to find me. I'm not just a runaway princess. I'm a symbol of everything they fear. My child is the last hope for the future of my people. They'll do anything to ensure that he's never born." Matt's heart sank as he heard the weight of her words. It wasn't just a personal mission for Zara. She was carrying the future of an entire race, and her enemies would do anything to stop it. This was bigger than he had imagined, and the responsibility on his shoulders felt heavier than ever. "Why do they fear your child?" Matt asked, his voice gentle. "Why is he such a threat?" Zara sighed, her eyes distant. "The Viridians believe in a prophecy. It said that one day a child will be born who will be strong enough to overthrow the rulers and bring peace to the galaxy. My child is that child. But there are those who don't want peace. They want power, and they will do anything to keep it." Matt listened carefully, trying to understand. A child, the future of a race, a symbol of hope and change. Zara's child was more than just a baby. He was the key to the galaxy's future, and there were powerful forces who would stop at nothing to destroy him before he could even be born. "What do you want me to do?" Matt asked, his voice soft but resolute. Zara looked at him, her expression filled with gratitude and trust. "I want you to help me keep him safe. The galaxy is vast, and we have many enemies. But if you help me, we can find a way to keep him hidden, away from the people who would destroy him." Matt nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of her request. He had no idea how he was going to protect them both, but one thing was certain: he wasn't going to let her down. Over the next few days, the bond between Matt and Zara grew stronger. As she recovered, she began to share more about her world, her culture, and her people. She told him about the Viridians' long history of power and control, and how they had fought wars to maintain their dominance over the galaxy. She spoke of the pain of being born into a family of rulers, a family that had chosen power over the lives of its people. Matt found himself drawn to her, not just because of the situation they were in, but because of who she was. Zara was strong, intelligent, and full of grace. She carried the weight of her people's future with quiet dignity. Yet there was a vulnerability to her that she tried so hard to hide as days passed. Matt and Zara began to work together, strategizing their next move. They knew that they couldn't stay in one place for long. The Viridians would be searching for her, and every minute they spent in one place increased the risk of being found. Matt spent hours studying maps of the galaxy, trying to find a place where they could hide. It wasn't long before Zara began to see something in Matt that she hadn't expected. It wasn't just his determination or his strength, it was his heart. He wasn't just helping her because it was his duty as a soldier, he was helping her because he cared. And that realization made her heart soften in a way she hadn't allowed it to in a long time. One evening, as they sat in the quiet of the ship, Zara turned to him and said, "I never thought I would find someone like you. Someone who would risk everything for me." Matt looked at her, his expression sincere. "I'm not doing it for you alone, I'm doing it for your baby, for the future." Zara smiled softly, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Thank you, Matt, for everything." They shared a moment of silence, the weight of their journey ahead hanging between them. But in that silence, there was something else, something stronger than just duty or obligation. It was a bond, one that neither of them had expected, but one that had begun to grow. As Matt looked at Zara, he realized that this mission was no longer just about survival. It was about something far deeper. And no matter what came next, he was in it for the long haul. Matt sat at the controls of his ship, his eyes scanning the stars as they drifted past. The quiet hum of the engine filled the cockpit, but his mind was anything but calm. Zara sat beside him, her face pale but determined as she stared out the window. The weight of their journey pressed down on both of them. They had been on the run for days, trying to stay ahead of the enemies who were hunting them. But with every passing moment, Matt felt the sense of danger growing closer. He didn't know how much longer they could keep outrunning it. "We're not safe yet," Zara said quietly, breaking the silence. Her voice was soft, but Matt could hear the tension in it. She had been through more than anyone should ever have to endure, yet she carried herself with a strength that amazed him. "I know," Matt replied, glancing at her. "We need to keep moving. I'll find a way to get you both to safety." "It's not just about me, Matt," Zara said, her gaze turning toward him. "It's about my child. My people believe that my son is the key to their future. If they find him before he's born, they'll destroy him. They'll destroy everything." Matt felt a pang of guilt. It wasn't enough to help Zara alone. Her child was part of the future of an entire race. This wasn't just about saving one life, it was about protecting hope itself. But the weight of that responsibility only made him more determined to keep them both safe. He couldn't fail her, not now. "We'll get through this," he said, his voice firm. "I won't let anything happen to either of you." Zara nodded, but there was a flicker of doubt in her eyes. "You don't understand. Matt, my people are powerful. They control fleets of ships, armies of soldiers. They won't stop until they find me. I'm not just running from them anymore, I'm running from an entire empire." "I understand more than you think," Matt said, gripping the ship's controls tighter. "I may not know your people, but I know what it's like to fight against something bigger than you. I've seen what power can do, and I know it's not always used for good. We'll fight back together." They both sat in silence for a few moments, lost in their thoughts. Matt's mind raced with possibilities. Every time he checked their systems, every time he made a jump to a new system, he was never sure if they were truly safe. Zara's enemies could be anywhere on the ground, in the skies, or even in the shadows of space. He couldn't let his guard down. A soft beep from the console broke his thoughts. It was a signal, another distress call, faint but unmistakable. Matt's heart skipped a beat as he activated the comms. His fingers hovered over the buttons, his instincts kicking in. "This is the captain of the Titan. Who's out there?" he asked, hoping for a response. The screen flickered to life, revealing a blurry image of another ship. A voice crackled through the static, barely audible. "Help, We need help. Matt leaned in closer, trying to hear the words. The signal was weak, but there was no mistaking the desperation in the voice. Whoever was out there was in trouble. Are you in danger? What's your position? Matt asked. The voice hesitated, then responded with urgency. We're being chased. They're after us. The transmission cut off suddenly, leaving only silence. Matt cursed under his breath, slamming his fist against the console. In frustration, Matt? Zara's voice was calm but full of concern. What happened? I don't know, he said, his voice tense. The signal dropped. Whoever was out there is in trouble. We have to go after them. Zara's expression darkened. We can't. If we go after them, we'll be putting ourselves at risk. They'll find us. Matt shook his head. We can't leave them. I don't care who's chasing us or what danger it puts us in. If someone needs help, we can't just ignore it. Zara hesitated, her brow furrowing as she considered his words. She knew the risks, but she also knew that Matt's sense of honor was not something he could turn off. She had seen it in him since their first meeting. He would not leave someone behind. And that loyalty was something she had begun to admire, even if it made their situation even more dangerous. You're right, she said softly. We can't ignore them, but we have to be smart about it. We'll approach carefully, Matt said, his mind already racing through the steps. We'll get close enough to offer help, but not so close that we risk drawing attention. He navigated the ship toward the source of the distress signal, his eyes scanning the surrounding space for any signs of trouble. The feeling of being hunted never left him, but now, with this new mission to help another, the pressure felt even heavier. He had a responsibility to protect Zara and her child, but now he had to worry about someone else too. The stakes were higher than ever. As the ship neared the signal's coordinates, Matt noticed something troubling. There were no other ships in sight, nothing that indicated danger, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. It was as if the galaxy itself was closing in on them, tightening around them like a noose. Suddenly, the ship's radar blinked to life, showing a massive fleet of ships approaching fast. Matt's heart raced. The enemies he had feared were finally here. They found us, Zara whispered, her voice low and filled with fear. They know where we are. Matt's hands were steady on the controls as he prepared for the worst. They weren't going to run anymore. They were about to face the full force of Zara's enemies. And there was no turning back. The ship's engines roared as Matt steered them through the dense field of asteroids, his fingers moving quickly over the controls. The radar was filled with blips, the signatures of enemy ships rapidly closing in on them. Zara sat beside him, her face pale but her eyes sharp, focused on the map displayed in front of her. She knew that they were running out of time. They had to make a decision quickly. The enemies had found them, and there was no escaping. Without a fight, Matt, Zara said urgently, her voice steady despite the situation. And they're getting closer. We don't have much time before they catch us. Matt glanced at her, his jaw clenched. We're not running anymore. I'm not leaving without you. His voice was firm, filled with a determination that he hadn't realized was there until now. Zara single quotes S eyes softened, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in them. You don't understand, Matt. They won't just capture us. They'll kill me and my child. They'll stop at nothing to destroy both of us. He didn't look away from the controls, but his heart sank at her words. The stakes were higher than ever. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore, they were fighting for a future. A future that wasn't his to protect, but one that he had promised to safeguard. If they're going to kill us, Matt said, his voice low and determined, then they'll have to get through me first. Zara's gaze turned toward him, a mixture of gratitude and something else in her eyes. It was the weight of a promise she had made not just to herself but now to him as well. She could see that Matt wasn't just helping her out of duty, he was doing it because he believed in the cause. And for the first time since their journey had started, she felt a flicker of hope. Matt, she said quietly, I don't want to just survive. I want my child to have a future. And if that means sacrificing everything, then I will. But there's one thing you need to know. If you want to save us, you have to make a promise to me. He turned to her, his eyes meeting Urs. Anything. I'll give you everything, she said, her voice steady. My body, my title, even my heart. But you must promise me one thing in return. Promise me that you'll keep my child safe, that you'll protect him no matter what. Matt's heart skipped a beat. He had known that there were risks, but this promise, this bond that Zara was offering was deeper than anything he could have imagined. He wasn't just protecting her anymore. He was protecting the future of her people. The future of her child. I promise, he said, his voice soft but full of resolve. I'll keep him safe. I'll protect both of you, no matter what. Zara nodded, the weight of his words settling between them. It wasn't just a promise anymore. It was a bond, a commitment that neither of them could break. She knew that the path ahead would be difficult, and there would be moments when doubt might creep in, but right now, in this moment, she believed in his words. She believed in him. Thank you, Matt, she whispered. I don't know if I could do this without you. The ship shook as an explosion rocked them, followed by the sound of weapons fire. The enemy had found them, and they were attacking. The fight had begun. Matt gritted his teeth, slamming his fist against the control panel. Damn it, he muttered. They're not giving us a choice. Zara's hand went to her side, reaching for the blaster she had hidden there. We'll make our choice, she said, her voice steady. We fight until we can't anymore. Matt looked at her, his heart pounding. She was no longer the frightened woman he had rescued from the cold surface of the moon. She was a warrior in her own right, willing to do whatever it took to protect her child and her future. And as much as he had promised to protect her, he knew now that it wasn't just a promise to her, it was a promise to himself. To fight for something greater than survival. Let's do it, he said, his voice filled with quiet determination. They fought back, their ship swerving and weaving through the asteroid field, narrowly avoiding the enemy's fire. Zara fired back with precision, her aim sharp and deadly. She had been trained for battles like this, and despite the fear and exhaustion, she fought with a sense of purpose that gave Matt strength. They weren't just running anymore. They were fighting for their lives, for their future. And in the midst of the chaos, Matt realized that this fight wasn't just about survival, it was about hope. Hope for Zara's child. Hope for a future free from the grip of her people's enemies. Hope that, no matter how impossible the odds seemed, they could make it through this together. The battle raged on, the sound of explosions and weapons fire filling the air. But in the middle of it all, Matt's resolve only grew stronger. He had made a promise to protect Zara and her child, and he wasn't going to break it. As they fought side by side, Matt could feel the bond between them growing deeper. This was no longer just about survival. This was about something much greater. And no matter what came next, he would keep fighting for her, for the child, and for the future that they could still have. The sound of gunfire echoed through the ship as Matt maneuvered the controls, weaving between asteroids to avoid the enemy's relentless attacks. Zara sat beside him, her hands steady as she fired back at the ships pursuing them. The battle had escalated quickly, and Matt's heart raced with every near miss. Every explosion outside the ship was a reminder that they were outnumbered and outgunned, but they couldn't afford to lose. Not now. They're gaining on us, Zara said, her voice calm but filled with urgency. She glanced at the ship's rearview screen, watching as more enemy ships appeared on the radar. We need to do something or we won't make it out of here. Matt's jaw tightened. He had never been more aware of how much was at stake. Not just his life, but the lives of Zara and her child. If they didn't find a way to escape soon, everything they had fought for would be in vain. I know, he replied, his voice focused. We can't keep running forever. We need to find a way to fight back. Zara looked at him, her expression serious. We can't fight them all, Matt. We don't have the firepower, but we can buy time. I have a plan, but it's risky. Matt raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. What kind of plan? Zara's eyes narrowed. We have to draw them in. There's a nearby planet with a hidden base, one that my people have long abandoned. If we can reach it, we can use the planet's defenses against them. But it's not without danger. Danger? Matt asked, glancing at her. What kind of danger? The planet is unstable, Zara explained. It's been abandoned for years, and the weapons systems there haven't been maintained. There's a chance they might not work. But if we can make it to the surface and activate them, we'll have a fighting chance. Matt didn't hesitate. He had been in enough dangerous situations to know that hesitation could be deadly. We'll take the risk, we don't have a choice. Zara nodded, a look of determination crossing her face. I knew you'd say that. Together they set a course for the planet, weaving through the asteroid field with the enemies still hot on their tail. The ship rattled with each impact, and Matt could feel the tension in the air as they approached the planet's atmosphere. Zara was busy at the controls, preparing to land, while Matt focused on keeping the enemy off their backs. We're almost there, Zara said. Prepare for a rough landing. As they neared the planet, Matt could see the desolate landscape. Below, mountains and craters stretching as far as the eye could see. There was no sign of life, no cities or towns, just barren wilderness. The planet had been abandoned long ago, and now it was their only hope. Here we go, Zara muttered under her breath. With a sudden jolt, the ship touched down on the planet's surface. The landing was rough, but they had made it. Matt quickly unstrapped himself from his seat, his muscles tense. This was the moment. They had to move quickly. We don't have long, Matt said, his voice low. Let's get to those weapon systems before they catch up to us. Zara led the way, her movements quick and precise as she navigated through the ship. They made their way to the hatch and stepped outside, the cold, dusty air hitting them immediately. Matt's eyes scanned the horizon, searching for any signs of danger. The enemy ships were still in the sky, hovering above, waiting for their next move. This way, Zara said, pointing toward a distant mountain. The base is hidden inside there. Together they began their trek across the desolate land, the silence of the planet adding to the tension. The only sound was their footsteps and the occasional blast from the enemy ships overhead. They moved quickly, keeping low to avoid being spotted. How much farther? Matt asked, his voice strained from the effort. Just a little more, Zara replied, her eyes focused on the mountain ahead. The base is deep inside. Once we get there, I'll activate the systems. As they reached the base, Zara moved quickly, entering the code to unlock the entrance. The heavy door slid open with a creak, and they stepped inside, greeted by the dim light of the long-abandoned facility. Dust covered the floors and old equipment lay scattered around, untouched for years. But in the center of the room, there was a console. It was the only thing that mattered now. Zara moved to the console, her fingers flying over the buttons as she worked to bring the weapon systems online. Matt stood guard, his eyes constantly scanning the dark corners of the room. He could feel the weight of the moment. Everything depended on Zara's ability to get the systems working. Hurry, Matt urged, his voice tense. They're closing in. Zara didn't look up, her focus unwavering. Almost there, she said, her voice steady despite the pressure. Just need a few more seconds. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed through the hallway. Someone was coming. Matt's heart raced. They had no more time. We have to go now, he said urgently. We can't wait any longer. Just as he spoke, the weapon systems flickered to life. The console hummed, and a screen lit up with a bright red warning. Zara quickly punched in the final command, and the room shook as the ground trembled beneath their feet. It's done, she said, turning toward him. We can fight now. The doors burst open, and enemy soldiers flooded into the room, but Matt and Zara were ready. With the weapon systems online, they had a fighting chance. The battle had escalated beyond what Matt had ever expected. Inside the abandoned base, the air was thick with tension. Matt and Zara had activated the weapon systems, but that didn't mean they were safe yet. Enemy soldiers were now charging at them, weapons raised, determined to capture or destroy them. The room shook as explosions rocked the base, but Matt and Zara didn't flinch. They were ready. Stay close, Matt said, his voice low but commanding. His hand went to his blaster, checking it one last time. "We fight together." Zara nodded, her eyes hardening. She had been trained for situations like this, though nothing could truly prepare anyone for what was happening now. As a member of the royal family, she had never imagined she'd find herself in a battle like this, fighting for her life and the life of her child. Yet here she was, with Matt by her side, fighting against the very people who had once been. Her family, they crouched behind a row of old equipment, taking cover as enemy soldiers approached. Matt's heart pounded in his chest, but his mind remained clear. He could feel the weight of Zara's presence beside him, a constant reminder of the promise he had made to protect her. Not just for her, but for the future of her child. "We don't have much time," Zara whispered, her voice tense. "They'll breach this room soon." "We'll hold them off as long as we can," Matt said. "Then we move." The enemy soldiers moved closer, their boots clanging against the metal floor. Matt's grip tightened on his blaster, every muscle in his body coiled and ready for the fight. His mind raced, calculating the best way to take down the soldiers without risking Zara's safety. "On my count," Matt said, his voice steady. 1, 2, he didn't need to say 3. As soon as the soldiers came into view, he and Zara fired simultaneously. The first soldier fell, a shot to the chest, and the others scattered, seeking cover. The sound of gunfire filled the room, and for a moment it felt as if the world had narrowed to just this. The two of them, fighting side by side. Zara single quotes, S aim was deadly accurate. Her shots never missed, each one taking down an enemy soldier with efficiency. Matt marveled at how quickly she adapted to the chaos. She wasn't just a princess. She was a warrior. The two of them worked in perfect harmony, each movement timed with the other. They took cover, moved when necessary, and never let their guard down. With every soldier they took down, the enemy seemed to grow more desperate. But even as the battle raged around them, Matt couldn't help but feel a growing sense of connection with Zara. They were in this together, more than just allies, they were partners. Their bond was becoming stronger, not just out of necessity, but because they trusted each other. "They're retreating," Zara said, glancing at the enemy soldiers who were now pulling back. "We're not out of danger yet." "We have to keep pushing," Matt said, his voice sharp. "If we let them regroup, they'll come back stronger." But Zara shook her head, her expression serious. "It's not that simple, Matt. We've done what we can here, but there's more to this fight. My family won't stop until they have what they want." Matt frowned. "What do you mean?" "The Viridians aren't just any enemy," Zara said. "They control entire fleets, vast armies. They'll never give up. Not as long as my child is alive. And they'll come after us again, stronger than ever." Matt's heart sank. He had known they were up against something much bigger than a few soldiers, but hearing it from Zara made it feel even more real. The enemies they faced weren't just soldiers, they were part of an empire, a vast power that controlled the fate of entire planets. And Zara's child, the future of her people, was at the center of it all. "So what do we do?" Matt asked, his voice urgent. "How do we stop them?" Zara's eyes met his, a fire burning in them. "We fight. We fight not just for my child, but for the future of the galaxy. My people are divided. Some want peace, but others crave power. I can't stop them alone. But if you help me, if we stand together, we might just have a chance." Matt took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. He hadn't signed up for anything like this. But he had made a promise to protect her and her child, and he wasn't going to back down now. Not when the stakes were so high. "You have my word," he said, his voice steady and strong. "I'll fight with you, for your child, for the future." Zara nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Matt. I don't know if I can do this without you." "You don't have to," Matt said. "We're in this together." With that, they prepared to leave the base. The fight wasn't over, but they had bought themselves some time. The enemy had been pushed back, but they knew it was only a matter of time before they regrouped and came after them again. And when that happened, Matt and Zara would be ready. Together, they left the base, moving quickly through the barren landscape. The weight of the promise they had made to each other was heavy, but it also gave them strength. They were fighting for something greater than themselves. They were fighting for a future that was worth every sacrifice. As they walked toward the ship, Matt couldn't help but feel a sense of hope rising within him. Despite the odds, despite the enemies that loomed ahead, they had each other. And that, he realized, was more than enough. Matt and Zara sat inside the cockpit of their ship, staring at the vastness of space outside the windows. The stars twinkled in the distance, each one seeming like a tiny beacon of hope in the dark void. But for Matt, there was no comfort in the peaceful view. He had always known that life in space was full of danger, but nothing could have prepared him for the battle they had just fought. They had survived, but they both knew that the war was far from over. The enemy might have been pushed back, but they weren't gone. Zara's people, her enemies, would stop at nothing to get her back. They wanted her child, the one she carried inside her, because that child was the future of her people. For Matt, this was more than just a mission, it was personal. He had made a promise to Zara, and he was determined to keep it, no matter the cost. Zara sat quietly beside him, her gaze fixed on the stars. She hadn't spoken much since the battle. Matt could see that she was tired, but there was something else in her eyes, a look of determination, one that matched his own. She wasn't just fighting for her life anymore. She was fighting for the future of her people and for her child. The responsibility weighed heavily on her, but she wore it with a quiet strength that Matt admired. "We can't keep running forever," Zara said softly, breaking the silence. Her voice was calm, but Matt could hear the strain in it. "They'll find us again, they always do." Matt turned to her, his face serious. "We won't run." "Not anymore." Zara looked at him, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "You're a stubborn one, aren't you?" "I'm determined," he replied, his voice full of resolve. "We'll find a way to fight back. We'll make sure your child has a future." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Matt had never expected to find himself in a situation like this, fighting for a child he had never met, for a future that wasn't his own. But when he had made that promise to Zara, something inside him had clicked. It wasn't just about protecting her anymore. It was about protecting hope for her people, for the future, and for a child who had the power to change the galaxy. Zara's single quotes eyes softened as she looked at him. "I never thought I'd find someone like you," she said quietly. "Someone who would risk everything to help me." Matt's heart tightened at her words. He had always been a soldier, trained to protect and defend. But this mission, this fight, was different. It wasn't just about following orders or doing what was expected. It was about something far deeper. It was about the bond he had formed with Zara, about the promise he had made to her, and the future he was determined to protect. "You don't have to thank me," he said, his voice gentle. "I made a promise, I will keep it." There was a long silence as they both sat, lost in their thoughts. The weight of their journey ahead was pressing down on them, but there was also a sense of peace between them. They had come this far together, and they knew they could face whatever came next. "I've been thinking," Zara said, breaking the silence. "Maybe it's time for a new beginning, not just for me, but for my people. The galaxy is a big place. There's more than one way to fight. Maybe it's time to stop fighting against each other and start fighting for something better." Matt looked at her, surprised. "You want to stop the fighting?" "Not stop it," she said, her voice firm, "but change it. There's too much hatred, too much violence. I don't want my child to grow up in a world like that. I want him to have a chance to grow up in a world where peace is possible." Matt nodded slowly, understanding what she meant. He had seen the destruction that war caused. He had seen the lives lost, the families torn apart. He had fought for peace before, but now, with Zara's words in his mind, he understood what it meant on a deeper level. Peace wasn't just the absence of war. It was a way of life, a commitment to understanding and cooperation. "You're right," Matt said quietly. "We can't keep fighting the same way. We have to find a new way." Zara smiled at him, sense of relief washing over her. Thank you, Matt. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm glad I'm not facing it alone. Matt placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch warm and reassuring. You're not alone. We're in this together. The ship flew through the stars, carrying them toward an uncertain future, but in that moment they both knew one thing for sure: they had each other. And that was enough to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they looked out into the vast expanse of space, the future seemed full of possibilities. They didn't have all the answers, but they knew that together they could create a new path. A path where hope, not fear, guided them forward. And no matter what happened, they would keep fighting for each other, for the child, and for the future they wanted to build. And so, as the ship continued its journey through the stars, Matt and Zara looked ahead, ready for the new beginning that awaited them.